Good morning. It is 19 minutes after 9 o'clock, and joining us in studio this time, we have Republican candidate for the governor of New Mexico, Greg Zanetti, back with us. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Mike. It's nice to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Well, we appreciate you spending some time with us, and you've been spending quite a bit of time in the southeast New Mexico area this last few days here, just kind of,
Mike, I love this part of the state. Well, this is my fifth trip to Roswell.
Yeah.
No, sixth trip.
Wow.
And let's see, Carlsbad twice, Artesia twice, Hobbs twice, Clovis again tonight, and that'll be my third trip to Clovis.
Nice.
No, this part of the state is America. You know what I mean?
Good news is his Jiffy Lube guy is very happy because he's got to do a lot more oil changes right now because he's driving all over the state.
Jiffy Lube guy. It's true. Keith up in Albuquerque. That's funny.
Getting a lot of work right now.
Oh, yeah.
I guess obviously we talked to you before, but kind of just for the just give a
been a
little bit of
number of
background, kind of give folks just a kind of an idea of your background and who you are.
Thanks, Mike. I was raised in Albuquerque. I went to Valley High School. From Valley to West Point.
Yeah.
I graduated from there in 1980, served on active duty. The Army paid for my master's degree in business from Boston University. I came back to Albuquerque and started a business. I started managing money. But Mike, the Army said to me, "Hey, Zanetti, you owe us some time for the master's degree."
Yeah, they kind of want payment for that. They tend to do that.
They said, if you join the Guard or the Reserves, 2 years, 4 years, I forget, we'll call it square. So I joined the Guard.
Sure.
So during the week, I built a business. I chaired the Republican Party in Bernalillo County twice. I was active with Right to Life. I headed term limits. I headed Right to Work, kind of the conservative guy around town.
Sure.
Meanwhile, I was also on KOB radio for 30 years and KOB TV for 10.
Gotcha.
So, kind of people knew me.
Sure.
Meanwhile, then on the weekends, I put on my uniform. All right, well, I made rank. Mike, by 2005, I was General Zanetti and in command of the brigade. And then in 2007, we got deployed to Guantanamo Bay.
So you spent time there in Gitmo.
I was the commanding general.
Yeah.
So Joint Task Force Gitmo was soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, Coast Guard. Joint. That's kind of what Joint Task Force means. And so I started out as deputy commander. The commander got ill, so I ended up taking over the place.
Sure.
I can't tell you how much I learned about politics at Gitmo. This was during the time when President Bush was transitioning over to President Obama.
Gotcha. So it was kind of hot in the headlines at that time.
Oh, yeah. President Obama was going to shut us down on the first day and sign the executive order. Well, all right. I mean, send us home. Fine with us.
Sure.
Well, actually, that you mentioned it. I'll just tell you this story. It was the first time I had seen what I call leadership by decree. We knew he was going to shut it down, or we thought so. So I called up to the Department of Detainee Affairs and said, all right, we're going to shut it down. Who do we coordinate with? No one had been assigned. Of course, we had the Air Force would be responsible for moving these knuckleheads. They had no idea what was going on. The State Department had no idea what was going on. What had happened was the leader had walked into the room, made a pronouncement, and turned around and walked out. Can you imagine running your radio station like this?
Yeah.
Where you said, oh, we're going to do this, and this,
Sure.
and then you walk out.
No logistics or plan to execute it, just
timetables, nothing.
make it happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's spring forward to August of this year. What did we just see President Biden do?
Kind of the same thing.
Kind of, yes. We will leave Afghanistan on August 31st. Well, wait, who's coming out first? What are we going to do with the equipment? How are we going to shut it down?
Sure.
All the things that should have been done didn't happen. Now, Gitmo, it didn't matter much. I mean, the place stayed open, got it.
Sure.
But in Afghanistan, how many thousands are going to die as a result of these pronouncements?
Sure. Well, and you can attest to this much more, and I've been saying this since it happened, is you don't understand that what he did went against the very fabric of that is the military. That's the one linchpin that keeps the military cohesive. That knowledge that we're in it no matter what. We don't leave people behind. We make sure we do bad stuff. We got to get in bad stuff sometimes. The thing is, we're going to be with you through that whole thing, and that's not what happened here. Right. And that goes against the very fabric. That is so disabling to our military that you don't realize the impact that alone has. Not to mention the scores of thousands of civilians and everything that we left out to dry here. That thing's bad 10 times. That whole event.
My people were so angry,
Yeah.
and now they're just trying to sweep it under the rug. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And we still have Americans over there
Yeah.
that we've left behind.
Mhm.
And you're right; it goes against every fiber in our bodies. And anyway, but by the way, how does MLG govern? Our governor here
Well,
decrees, right?
yeah.
Pronouncements. Restaurants will be open at 25%. Well, why 25? Why not 24?
Yeah.
Why not 20? Where does it come from?
Sure. Where's the logic behind this?
Right. And so what happens is when you have leadership by decree, either two things happen. Either nothing happens or a bunch of people down below start to fill the power vacuum, and then it's convoluted and disorganized and everybody's head spins. So, yeah, I'm getting off track. But anyway, if you're looking for a governor who understands complex bureaucracies and the political relationship between those bureaucracies and the people and how it can either work for the people or against the people, Mike, I'd ask you to look at the Zanetti for Governor campaign. So, all right, so here's the controversial part about me, and your audience ought to know this. When I got back from Gitmo, Mike, I didn't have a job. I had to sell my business for the
Gotcha.
deployment.
Okay.
You can't take care of clients from Cuba.
It's kind of hard.
Yeah. So I got a phone call from a high school friend, another Valley Viking. And he had become Bill Gates' money manager.
Okay.
The guy.
Okay.
This was 2009.
That's a lot of money to manage.
Oh, yeah. And he said, hey, Zanetti, we want you to come up here to Seattle and run some assets for Bill.
Okay.
Well, I thought he was a philanthropist. So we moved up to Seattle. And I'll just tell your audience this. I'm not a fan of Mr. Gates. Our values do not align, and I'm not in agreement with really anything he does. With that said, Mike, I learned so much about money. What I thought I knew after 20 years in the business in Albuquerque, when I saw how billions moved, hundreds of billions moved, oh my gosh, this is how it really works. This is how the state of New Mexico gets taken advantage of. This is how our permanent funds get taken advantage of. If you are looking for a governor who really understands money and you think we're going to have financial issues in the future based on how much money was misspent during this, the COVID mess, I'm not even going to call it a pandemic. And you think we ought to have someone who understands that part of it to protect New Mexicans financially, I'd ask you to look at the Zanetti for Governor campaign.
Well, I want to ask this, because I think this kind of goes into the area where I think our real issues are here when we talk. Because obviously we live in a society now. We look at the things nationally here, and you got the one percenters, and we talk about the Wall Street movements and things that are going on here. And I think most of the people that have issues are almost at some point not understanding who the real problem is here. And in theory, how it should work is we all work hard and those opportunities come to you, you work, and that's, you can go from someone who has nothing to someone that's got a substantial, this country is still that place to do that. But what's going on is we've got folks that, your Bill Gates and things like that they're using that money for influence, and they're changing our political landscape, our lifestyles through their money. Bezos is doing the same thing right now. And so most of us like, well, how the heck does that even happen? I think through this you're getting you got to peel back the curtain. It's like, this is how the rich keep getting richer, and this is how the people trying to scrape things together, why it's not working, and we all want to blame the guy. To be honest, the same person who's in the same boat, they're just a little higher up on the scale than you. We're all being victimized here by these other things up top here. I mean,
way to go, Mike.
You know what I mean?
You see it.
Yeah.
I could show you charts of the wealth disparity and how out of whack this is getting. And COVID was the perfect example of how this manifested. What happened? Oh, we shut down the little guys, but Walmart gets to stay open?
Sure.
Well, what? All right. All the wealth is getting sucked up. I don't even call it capitalism. I'm not sure this is a term, but crony capitalism.
Right.
All right, who are the pals? And then the politicians work hand in glove with these guys because the money pours into the campaigns.
Sure.
And meanwhile, who gets hurt? All the folks out there. Then you layer in a governor, our governor, who thinks that economic development consists of casinos, weed, and personal injury attorneys. And what we have is a bunch of printed money right now masking poverty that is occurring underneath. And you and I both know this money printing is going to end badly.
Sure.
And when it does, Mike, it's going to spill into the streets. It's already starting. I mean, look what's happening on the shelves. Look at the rising crime.
Absolutely.
Look at the rising civil unrest, the social unrest, the uneasiness we all feel because financially we know there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Then add in a border that's wide open where we've got the criminals and the gangs and all this child trafficking, which is really sick.
Sure.
And, what they do to women. And our governor thinks this is all okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need a general who understands money to clean this mess up is kind of my view, which is why I'm running. But yes, you've nailed it. So,
Sure.
So how do we respond? What will we then do? Because Mike, you got to offer people hope.
Sure.
So go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
I'm sorry.
you.
Go ahead. Go for it. Because I want to ask something, but it's probably not quite at that point yet. So go ahead and finish your thought. I'm sorry.
All right. How do we beat this?
Mm-hmm.
The wealthy, this is financial advisor Greg talking to you now. The wealthy don't think in terms of money. They think in terms of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike, there are foundationally two kinds of wealth in the world. There's one more, but we'll just stay in the horizontal here for a minute. There's wealth from the earth, oil, gas, timber, copper, gold, silver, oranges and cotton, the stuff God made.
Right.
I call it low tech. Cotton is cotton, lead is lead, doesn't change very much.
But to get to the high tech, you got to have it.
That's right. Everything in this room started there.
Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, you're correct. The other kind of wealth is high tech. Wealth from human hands. Taking aluminum and making an airplane. Well, that's wealth to me. So is my car, so is my cell phone and my computer. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a moving target. 150 years ago, high tech was what, railroads?
Mm-hmm.
Good on that generation.
Yeah.
And then the progression, cars and radios and TVs and microwave ovens. Now we're here.
Sure.
Well, Mike, what's the next stuff that's coming? Micromachinery, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, quantum computing. Where was that stuff born? New Mexico.
Yeah.
And the wealth from the earth part?
Sure.
Are we a wealthy state in wealth from the earth?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've got 4 of the 17 rare earth elements. We have oil, we have gas, we have timber, and we have all this potential, and we can't bring it
Financially,
together.
we should be one of the richest states in the country.
Exactly. Meanwhile, we have a tax structure that punishes businesses, and we have a legal structure where businesses are afraid to move often for fear of being sued and being out of business the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these are the two things that Governor Bush did, 30, 40 years ago in Texas. And Texas wasn't doing all that hot. Well, he got elected. He changed the tax code so it rewarded enterprise and opportunity and wealth creation. And he had tort reform. And I know everybody goes, tort reform, oh, Greg, you can't campaign on it. Yeah, I understand. Most people glaze over. But we do have to change the legal structure where you can't live in terror of an attorney. Mm-hmm. And just look at the billboards up and down New Mexico. It's all about who are we going to sue next.
Sure.
Well, it doesn't work. Are we going to have an opportunity to change? Actually, I think yes.
Sure.
I think we've agreed that the money printing is going to end badly. When it does, there's your opportunity to offer something different because promises get broken. Okay, so now it's General Zanetti talking to you just for a minute. Mike, you never win a war by attacking an enemy's weaknesses. They'll let you attack weaknesses all day long. Mm-hmm. You got to go after their strength. Mm-hmm. We call it the center of gravity. All right. Well, you got to identify it right. And sometimes it's tough. I mean, the center of gravity, in the Bible was often the king. If the king died, everybody, ran away. It might be the capital. It could be Civil War. It was the army of Robert E. Lee. Mm-hmm. Once Lee lost, all the air went out of the South.
Sure.
In the Cold War, it was actually a currency. We took out the ruble and won without firing a shot.
Just outspent them.
Well, we did. That's a great story, by the way. I'll tell you how Thatcher and Reagan did it with oil and how it was this part of the state in Texas that actually saved America.
I know we're getting, but
yeah.
Reading the tea leaves, are we getting, in your opinion, is China doing to us now what we did to Russia during the Cold War?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I see this writing on the wall, but I don't know if people realize we're in a Cold War now and we're losing. and I think China's beating our butt in it.
Right. Meanwhile, our politicians are debating, are there 86 genders or 88 genders?
Yeah.
And if you don't give me my correct pronoun, I'm going to, out you on social media. There's some huge things going on here. Mm-hmm. And so, well, let's lay one out. We're kind of off track.
But, yeah, I know. I do that.
Let's swing back to Afghanistan.
Sure.
What do you know about something called the petrodollar?
Very little.
All right. The dollar used to be backed by gold.
Okay.
In 1971, Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard, but he wasn't stupid. He knew something had to back the dollar. Kissinger, remember Henry Kissinger?
Mm-hmm.
He was dispatched to Saudi Arabia
Mm-hmm.
with a proposal. And it went like this. We want you to trade oil in dollars and dollars only. Do not accept Deutschmarks or British pounds or Japanese yen, just dollars. If you do that, we will defend the kingdom. It's kind of a protection racket.
Mm-hmm.
And look, you guys are lousy at it. We've got a strong Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. We'll do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. By the way, we just found out 5 years ago, Kissinger also said to them, if you don't take the deal, we may take your oil. It was total hardball.
Mm-hmm.
Saudis said, we don't care how we get paid. We're in. Well, now basically petroleum backed the dollar. If you were French and you wanted a barrel of energy, shoot, you had to turn in your French francs, get U.S. dollars, then you got your oil.
Okay.
This became known as the petrodollar deal. It's not a conspiracy. It's not woo-woo. Everybody's known it.
Sure.
All right, let's spring forward 50 years. What just happened in Afghanistan?
Mm-hmm.
A pretty humiliating retreat
Mm-hmm.
and bungled badly and all the stuff that we already discussed.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, I'm going to make you Saudi Arabia. And I'll ask your listeners to picture a map with Saudi Arabia in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the east. Afghanistan has fallen. Iran's not with us. Iraq's not with us. Start coming over the north. What, Pakistan and Turkey? They're not with us. Come down the other side. Syria and Lebanon. Lebanon's basically Hezbollah.
Mm-hmm.
They're not with us. And then come underneath Saudi Arabia, and you got Yemen who's firing missiles
Mm-hmm.
into Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're the Saudis, you're saying, wait, this petrodollar deal is predicated on you defending us.
Mm-hmm.
We're surrounded.
Yeah.
So what did the Saudis do? On August 24th, they signed a mutual defense pact with Russia.
Ah.
Wait a minute. I thought we were supposed to do that.
Sure.
How did we respond? Well,
Sure.
during the week of 9/11, Biden throws out all you guys were complicit in 9/11. And now what's happening? Oh, and by the way, Biden's asking him to open their oil spigots, and they're telling him to pound sand.
Mm.
Well, we shut all ours.
I know.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so then now we've come to find out we are removing our Patriot missile batteries from the Arabian Peninsula.
Wow.
All
They
right.
replace them with the Russian version, I guess?
Yeah. So what's happening here? The petrodollar deal is disintegrating right before our very eyes.
Sure.
All right. So what does this mean? Well, the world has been needing dollars to buy its energy for decades. Well, that kept a constant demand for dollars. Well, as that demand falls for dollars and supply of dollars is soaring as we print them by the trillions, and we want to do another 5 trillion out of this administration for all the new Green Deal stuff. Well, what happens? If supply soars while demand drops, what happens to the value of your currency?
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing out there right now? Your currency's falling and prices are rising. And we're focused on all of these little petty, revenge,
Sure.
lust for power things.
Mm-hmm.
We need to so how does New Mexico get through this?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Like we agreed, we've got wealth from the earth. We've got wealth from human hands. What we need to do is put together a structure where government says we are encouraging all of this at all levels. And you know what industry has done it the best, which is the template?
Mm-hmm.
The energy business here. Think what they've done. Oil's pretty low tech. It's been around 1 billion years or whatever.
Right.
There it is.
People were lighting their rooms with it for many, many years before
Right.
we thought to put it in cars.
Right. And now here we are. I mean, you go out to these fracking fields.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they're going down 2 miles.
Yeah.
And now they're going horizontally 1 mile. I mean, imagine the technology to do that and to bring oil out. What a stunning achievement
Sure.
in the combination of both. You know where we could do it next? Water. I believe New Mexico should be the water state. And I know people are saying, "What do you mean? We're in a drought." I mean, Mike, we're the Saudi Arabia of brackish water.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Reynolds years ago did a study that said we had 15 billion acre feet of brackish water. Now that may be high, but even if it were, let's say, 1/10 of that,
Mm-hmm.
that's water for 500 years for New Mexico, even
Wow.
at 1/10. Anyway,
And that's all useful in the oil and gas industry. That
oh my
brackish
gosh,
water.
yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And here's the good news. If you look at what's happening over in Israel, they don't have any water either. How they have been able to desalinate water, and the technology has leapt ahead, and the costs have dropped like crazy. Well, meanwhile, the cost of fresh water, especially you have to move it, 50, 100 miles, water's heavy. It's expensive to move.
Sure.
That cost is rising. Everybody out there getting a water bill knows it. Well, the lines haven't crossed yet, but we're getting there. What if New Mexico said, we got ahead of this, and he said, look, we think that we might be in this arid cycle for a while. We are going to commit this many, imagine if we had committed the COVID dollars to water. We're going to bring it up. We're going to clean it. San Antonio's got 2 plants right now. One's doing 30 million gallons a day. The other's doing 18 million gallons a day. And they want to take the 30 million one up to 42 million. Mike, could we do that here in Roswell?
Yeah.
And bring something low-tech water, put it together with high-tech, the hydrology. And do we have brilliant hydrologists in the state?
Sure.
Yes. Could you do the same thing up in Las Vegas, New Mexico? Could you do the same thing in Clovis for the dairy guys? And they need water. Watch what happens here. Now, and here's what happens with brackish water. It doesn't fall into the compacts. We don't have to share it with Texas.
Gotcha.
And it doesn't have water rights.
Excellent.
Right.
So no fighting over that water.
No. But we need to start thinking like this.
Sure.
And so now what happens is instead of Santa Fe taking money from this part of the state and then
wasting it
and then yelling at you all the time.
Yeah.
What if we get cooperative and say, first, thank you.
Sure.
And next, what can we do to help you? What can we bring to you to help? Because in order to desalinate the water, we need energy. Well, yeah, a lot of energy. And, you talk to people, and by the way, it doesn't all have to be oil and gas. I'm for the wind, I'm for the solar thing.
Bring it all to the party.
Well, yeah. And by the way, have you heard about small modular nuclear reactors?
I have a little. I mean, I don't have a vast knowledge, but I know that pretty much one of those could solve all of our energy problems around town here. But because of the word nuke,
I know
people get scared, and it's like, to be honest, as far as risk factors, it's probably 10 times safer than any other form of way to power right now. But because of the stigma behind it and a little bit of knowledge is very scary on that one. And unfortunately, a lot of people have a little bit of knowledge on it.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. It's a nuclear reactor about the size of a McDonald's.
Yeah.
It'll power 60,000 homes. And we have this amazing geologic wonder down in Carlsbad, those salt pits, the salt mines.
Yeah.
Where you can store the nuclear waste. And everybody says it's going to take 10,000 years for it to. No, it doesn't. It takes about 200 years for it to be manageable again.
Sure.
That's still a long time. But Carlsbad is saying, yeah, we'll handle this. And I think the technology is going to advance there on the nuclear waste.
Sure.
So imagine us as the energy state and the water state. And now watch what happens with agriculture.
Sure. But to be honest, how much output could something about the size of what we're talking about here? I mean, if this thing's that small, how much waste does it? I mean,
not much.
That's what I'm saying. It's like technology, computers get smaller. The nukes are getting smaller too. It's the same deal. And they can do less with more with that. So the storage problem shouldn't even be a problem because it's minuscule amounts of this item we're talking about that we need to stick underground.
Well, that's my view.
Yeah.
And so you just look at these advances that are coming.
Yeah.
And you think, we need to stop doing what we're doing. Like, we're still chasing Google. We're chasing Amazon. We're chasing Facebook. Those are all old technologies.
Yeah.
Google started in 95. The stuff we talked about that was born here, the quantum computing, nanotech, micromachinery. I mean, imagine if we could keep the nerds here.
Sure. Yeah.
And we always talk about keeping the kids, and we ought to offer them plumbing and electric and HVAC. I totally get it.
Sure.
Yes, I'm all for the vocational stuff.
Because we need all of that.
But I want to keep the smart. They're just smart in a different way. I want to keep the techies here too.
Yeah.
And so now what happens is you get kind of this synergy thing going of, you guys aren't going to believe this, but where it's happening is in New Mexico.
Sure. Los Alamos is the most advanced place on the planet, probably.
Right.
And it's in our backyard.
Right. Yeah. And DARPA and the labs and actually New Mexico State and New Mexico Tech, amazing things go on there. And all of it doesn't have to be centered in Albuquerque, for crying out loud, or Santa Fe or Las Cruces. And I'm all for that. But the rest of the state,
sure,
there's no geographical limit on this stuff. In fact, a lot of it should be, particularly with the water, should be in the rural areas. And watch the state start to come together again instead of this us versus you and this kind of thing. But we have way too much top down.
Sure.
Where did we just see the perfect example of top down just blowing up on us? Well, with the mask mandates.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got a public education department that's out of control.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't used to have a PED. That was a Richardson invention.
Okay.
Well, all right, for all the years previous, local school boards handled the local community for the local parents and the local school kids. Well,
so is that something as governor you'd get rid of PED? Or
I would love
you?
to.
Okay.
Now legally I can't.
Okay.
But what I could do is declaw it.
Gotcha. Take the bite out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be able to go to Floyd, New Mexico, and remove a duly elected school board.
Yeah.
That's outrageous.
Well, and the sad part is they have no recourse. I mean, have you heard anything since they disappeared from Floyd?
No.
You know what they're doing? Not doing Floyd biz. Someone else is doing it right now.
Right.
And yeah.
And it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And they just promulgated 129 pages of new rules and regulations, and most of it revolves around CRT, the critical race theory stuff. And I was telling you, it's really bad stuff to be dividing kids at kindergarten and telling you you're only going to be known by your race.
Sure.
What's going on here?
Sure.
Can the governor stop that kind of stuff? Yes, yes, yes.
Let's get real experts in to talk about these things.
Right.
Not people that are self-proclaimed experts. Let's get people that actually study this and say, are we teaching the right things or do we need to reassess it? But just because on a whim we think people need this, let's do that.
Right.
That's what happens when you let mob mentality rule the government.
Right.
And that's what you got going on right now. We can't have that.
No,
Yeah.
we have to decentralize power.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be pushing power back down to the local communities. So let's take the mask mandates again. Let's just say Chavez County, Lee County, and Eddy County, they all say we are not going to have mask mandates for the kids. What if the governor said, we will support your decision. We will give you any and all information as soon as we get it. What resources do you need that we could help you implement what you've decided to do?
Sure.
But let's go the other way. Bernalillo County, Sandoval, and Taos County, just made them up, say all our kids are going to wear masks. Right? The governor's got to say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we support your decision. What can we do to help you?
Sure.
We'll give you the information. And now what'll happen? Chavez and Eddy and Lee are kind of looking up there at Bernalillo, Sandoval, and how's it working?
Yeah.
They're doing the same back.
Sure.
And now people will adjust.
Sure.
And
to
they
be
will
honest,
hate on each other.
maybe it'll force the other to look at the other way. Maybe they come down here and they're saying,
Of course.
the herd immunity is working. Maybe the mask things, or vice versa.
Or vice versa.
They're saying, you know what? The masks are making an impact. We should probably do that ourselves. But either way, you're allowing people to feel their own way through it and get what's right for them.
Right.
And then if it's not working right, we'll adjust on the fly. Unfortunately, the government, the New Mexico government's been doing that since day one, but they're not adjusting. They're just saying, this is how we're going to do it, deal with it. And that's the problem.
And
there isn't that, hey, let's trial and error. Let's, this is new territory, therefore do as I say. No, it's new territory. Let's all figure it out together. That's what should have been happened. And that's not what happened.
And that's my total view of this. Instead of these pronouncements and decrees, we're on decentralization and how can we help you?
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of one of the main thing I learned, as commanding at Gitmo.
Yeah.
Is everybody say, what was it like having all those people work for you? I thought, man, you don't get it.
Yeah.
That they didn't work for me.
Sure.
I work for them.
Sure.
And that kind of thinking, when it percolates down through a chain of command, where everybody isn't looking up for the next job or the next promotion or whatever, but how am I going to take care of that sergeant, that private, that young lieutenant? How can we make them better to do their jobs?
Sure.
They will stun you with their creativity, with their ingenuity, with their hard work, and watch what happens. Can we make this switch in New Mexico? See, I believe we can. Will it happen as if everything is the same today as it will be next year? We're all kind of comfortable. And it's all, no, but I think we're about to go through, I call it the shift. It's already happening.
Yeah.
This inflation thing's not going to stop. And what Biden is doing with the supply chains and blaming everybody else, I've never seen more incompetence at the top.
It's impressive, actually.
Yeah. I've never put that way.
It's so bad, it's impressive.
Sometimes I think it's too stupid to be stupid. I mean, is this a plan? And what's going on?
I'm not even mad. I'm impressed how bad this is.
And then we got a governor doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, what are we doing today?
Sure.
Anyway,
we're running short on time.
sorry,
but
I
want
talked too much.
but I want to make sure we talk, because this is something. The reality of the world is the war chests get the attention and the money and everything, and right now you're in that side of things, trying to get your name out there and get. Let's face it, the money it takes to take on the big money that's going on here. So where's your plan there? Because that's the part that it sounds like you got the great direction we're going to take it, but how do you get yourself to that level? And that's where obviously a lot of help and support so you do it, but how do you get your name as the one where the people are throwing you the money so we can combat what we're talking about here, because you can't even get to the table unless you got the money to get there,
No, and you're right. We were second in the fundraising, and we didn't have previous money. And most people out there don't know this. Mm-hmm. If you've run for office before and the lobbyists have given you a bunch of money, you can transfer that money from one race to another race. Well, I don't have that.
You don't have the race to transfer from.
But if you look at what we raised, on our own, actually, we would have been in first place.
Gotcha.
So, up in Bernalillo County, I'm pretty well known.
Gotcha.
After all those years,
so you got some good support there,
of course, and people have known me for many years, and my positives over negatives are like 4-1. Like, I can go into any community in this state and call a National Guard friend.
Gotcha.
And say, Sergeant Armijo, Captain Gonzalez.
Pull them general. There are perks to being a general. It's good to be the general. I as an airman, I know it's good to be the general sometimes.
But we were also friends. It's hard to describe, but we were friends.
Yeah, you make connections. You make it's military, and I don't. And if you've never been in the military, there's just something like, as soon as even if you have zero in common.
Right.
There's still a connection, and you can work together because you just kind of know the cut of the person's jib because they signed on the dotted line at some point. You know what I mean?
We never talked about Republican, Democrat, Hispanic, Anglo, and you're right. You're in uniform.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That kind of formed my thinking. I don't think like this at all.
Sure.
And so, how do you do it? I think it's shows like this, and you hope that people out there say, this guy's different.
Right.
Yeah, I want to support him. And by the way, I didn't mention the third kind of wealth. It's spiritual wealth, that connection up. And I'm telling you, we could do everything right in the horizontal, but if we don't get right with God, we're going to have, none of this will matter. And so I know I'm not running for high priest, but please know that we've got to have a change of heart.
Christian values are influenced by every decision you make.
Of course.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I'll be on my knees every morning and every night praying for the state of New Mexico.
Sure.
And unapologetically. So anyway, you just hope that the message resonates and people come and say, hey, we're with you.
Sure.
And that's it.
So let's do the nuts and bolts here. Folks are listening and saying, you know what, I want to learn more about Greg Zanetti. I'd like to contribute.
You're a nice guy.
give them the tools to get the information and money to you.
You would go to Zanetti. It's Z as in zebra, A-N as in November, E-T-T-I, for governor. Just spell it all out. ZanettiForGovernor.com. My Facebook page is up. You can learn all about me and what I stand for.
And of course, for this first run around, to get to vote for Greg, you got to be a registered Republican for the province. So, if you're like, hey, I want to vote for this guy, make sure you're a Republican. There's a very easy way to do that.
Anyway, you were very kind to me this morning, so thank you for having me.
Anytime. We appreciate you spending time and giving us great information. That's at the end of the day, I just want to give people an opportunity to hear what you have to say and let them figure out what they like and don't like. That's my job is done at that point, the way I see it. And, just give, I always have my thoughts and opinions on things, but I certainly don't want some of that to influence because I know people don't think like I do and they shouldn't. And, and I don't want them to. I want them to think their own way, but sure, I'll give you my advice and you can throw it out the window or you can ride with it. I don't care, but I want to give the people that opportunity. So I appreciate that. And I'm sure we'll get to hopefully see you down more time. And obviously, assuming you go on and win this governor thing, open forum, love to have you come and talk with us. And if you come down once as governor, that would be one more time than the current governor has come and seen me since she's been governor.
Mike, I've heard this all over the state. The Navajo Nation people are saying that she hasn't been back. People in Espanola say she hasn't been back. It's an odd thing. I mean, I think you have to really like people and love New Mexicans.
Well, never mind. I have things to say, but I'll just keep them to myself right now.
Anyway, don't give up hope. There are a lot of people who want change, and I hope they turn to Zanetti for governor.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. And
Thanks, my friend.
we'll see you next time.
All right. God bless you.
All right. It is 9:54. Let's do